welcome back. Today I'm here to bring you my summer reading wrap up. As some of you may know, I spent 2 months in the States. I was in the States for most of June and all of July, and then August came around and I was playing catch up with videos because I had a whole bunch of pre-recorded videos for June and July. So I didn't get to do a wrap up. I also didn't do a whole lot of reading while I was in the States, but what I did do were some real chunkers. So I only have, I think, 8 or 10 books to talk about, but a lot of them were really big. The first book that I finished was in June, and I finished it rather quickly, and that was The Glittering Court by Rachel Mead. I have heard such mixed reviews on this book. A lot of people just didn't like it, so I went in expecting that I wouldn't like it, which is why it's been sitting on my shelf for at least 2 years. I actually kind of enjoyed it. This one follows a girl named Adelaide, and Adelaide is a high-born countess in the land that she's from, and she is just not having the most wonderful life. Her family is sort of in this financial turmoil and she needs to marry. So she decides to swap places with her maid, which is where she gets her name Adelaide from, because she's not actually named Adelaide. And she goes into this sort of school for preparing lower class born women for higher class society life in the new world, so that the people that are in the new world have a choice of a sort of high-born, more noble type of woman. It sounds a little shady, it is a little shady. Besides my initial reservations about the book, I went into it thinking that it was going to be a lot of focus on this school that she was in. That's not really what happened. We're actually in the school for a very short amount of time, and then we are sent to the new world, and there's this whole adventure that happens in the new world. I can see why some people didn't like it. If you're not really looking for that kind of adventure and you're hoping for more of like a finishing school, then that's not what you're going to get. But I thought it was kind of fun. It had a lot of different culture. I thought the world was pretty well done. It wasn't the best book I've ever written, but I did enjoy it for what it was, so I ended up giving it a 3.75 stars. Next up was a book that I had on my TBR to read for while I was actually in the States, but I read it before I went to the States. I flew through this book, which is shocking because it's quite big, and that was Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I now can say I'm almost finally caught up with the series. I really enjoyed this one. I think so far this was my favorite book. Queen of Shadows I really liked a lot too, but this may be my favorite one. I'm not going to talk about this anymore because number one, this video is going to be long enough as it is, and number two, most of you know what Throne of Glass is. But I gave this book a 5 stars, and I haven't been giving out many of those this year, so that says something. The next 2 books that I listened to were audiobooks that I listened to in the States because I had a lot of flying and a lot of car time, and audiobooks were the way to go. The first one was Dating You, Hating You by Christina Lauren. I went into this one because a lot of people said that this is quite similar to The Hating Game. I loved The Hating Game. I wasn't a huge fan of this one. It just didn't really compare, and I think it was because I was trying to compare the two, which isn't always fair for books. This one follows Evie and Carter, and they met at a friend's party and hit it off right away, and things were going good until Carter's entertainment business merged with Evie's entertainment business, and they both had to compete for the same job. Again, very similar to The Hating Game, but this one it didn't do it for me. I didn't feel the romance as much. It was cute, but I didn't like it nearly as much as I liked The Hating Game. Again, not an awful book. It was a cute read. It was a quick read. I did end up giving it a 3 stars, just not entirely what I was hoping for it to be. I then went into Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, and I had reservations about this one because everybody seemed to love Christina Lauren. Dating You, Hating You was the first book that I had read from her, and I was afraid to get into the next one because I didn't like Dating You, Hating You as much. And this one has to be my favorite book. My favorite romance book that I have read so far this year. This one follows Macy and Elliot. Macy's mom passed away several years ago, and one of the things that Macy's mom wanted to make sure that her dad did for her was to get a sort of summer home or weekend home so that Macy had the opportunity to just get away from the stresses of school and teenage life and being the girl whose mom has passed away. When she goes to this house, she meets Elliot. Macy and Elliot are both love books, and it sort of follows their friendship and relationship. 10 years later, Macy and Elliot have broken up, and we don't know what happened, so we spring between their current situation and their past situation, and we find out a lot about what happens. You really fall in love with these characters. I really enjoyed it. If you have read In It With Us by Colleen Hoover and you liked that sort of back and forth mystery of what happened with the old boyfriend, or what was another one? All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. It sort of has that kind of feel. I like those kinds of books, so I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 5 star too. I had some really hits this summer, and I had some sort of meh books, but a lot of 5-star books all in general. Next up is another 5-star read, and that is Tower of Dawn. This is one that I went into with reservations. I know everybody says that, and everybody said they didn't really want a book about Kale, and they all ended up loving it. I didn't have reservations about that. I didn't mind the story arc about Kale and Kale's sort of redemption. I wouldn't call it a redemption, but I just didn't want to go into it because everybody loved it, and I was afraid that I wouldn't. But I actually did. It took me a while to get into the new world, the new characters, but I did enjoy Kale's story arc. I feel like it did him good. It didn't really redeem him, but it made you understand him a little bit. I never was really a Kale hater. A lot of people were Kale haters. I was never a Kale hater. He was misunderstood. I did quite enjoy this, and now I only have one book left, which I hope to get to in sequel September, but I haven't picked it up yet, and it's already the 7th, so I'm not sure if that will happen. You never know. Next up is another 5-star read, 3 in a row. I was really having a good month, apparently. This book is Eleanor by Jason Gurly. I have a spoiler-free review out for this already, and I've already talked about it in my book haul. So if you want to know more about it, you can go check those. I will quickly tell you that this is about a girl whose sister who has passed away in a car crash. It follows her mother, and very briefly her grandmother at the beginning of the book, and it deals with grief. I thought that it was going to be a grief book, but it actually ends up being this almost parallel universe, but not quite book. Go check out the review because this book was just absolutely fantastic. It was my favorite book of the year. I got it at a dollar store, which is total score because who would have thought my favorite book of the year came from a dollar store. I highly, 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 highly recommend this book, so you should go check out the review and go pick it up for yourself. Who knows? Maybe you'll find it at the dollar store. Next up was Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welsh. I listened to this one on audio. This book follows Addie, and Addie is in Ireland for her aunt's wedding, but she has recently gone through this huge breakup, and she ends up going on this adventure that I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about, but she goes with her brother Ian and Ian's friend Rowan, and we find a whole lot about some secrets that Ian's keeping. We have a whole lot of secrets that Addie's keeping. Something terrible has happened. We don't really find out what until the end of the book. This is kind of like a Irish road trip. It wasn't really heavy on the romance, which wasn't a bad thing. I quite enjoy books that are not too heavy on the romance, but I didn't like this one. It was a lot of high school drama. I don't really relate to high school drama very much. I never really did, not even high school. I couldn't be bothered. So high school drama books just don't intrigue me. It wasn't really that interesting of a story either, so I gave it a 2 stars. I would say you probably should read Love and Gelato before Love and Luck. I did not, but you do see the characters from Love and Gelato in Love and Luck. But I'm not going to read Love and Gelato because I didn't like Love and Luck. I gave it a 2 stars. Next up, I picked Live by Night by Dennis Lehane. This one was actually a pleasant surprise. This one came from my quarterly reading challenge. And in my quarterly reading challenge, I have this sort of like a TBR jar, and a lot of the books that are in there are books that I'm not necessarily interested in, that I've even been given or got from a thrift store for really cheap, but they're not my high priority books. But I need to either read them or give them to somebody else because they're taking up room on my shelves that I don't really have. This was one of them, and I actually kind of enjoyed this one. This one follows a guy named Joe, and Joe is part of the Boston Mafia, almost. Although he doesn't want to admit that he's a gangster, he is a outlaw, according to himself. And it follows his journey through things that happen through Boston and his sort of rise in the gang community, I guess. It's a historical fiction. It takes place, I want to say, in the 1920s and 30s, yeah, because it's Prohibition era. So I enjoyed it because I didn't expect it to be a historical fiction, and I didn't really think I would like gang books. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I did quite enjoy it. It was not the greatest book. I did lose interest at some points, but it was surprising because I didn't expect to like it at all, which is always nice. Next up is probably another favorite of the year, and that was Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. I heard about this from several people. I can't remember who, but this one is a story about men who were raped by a serial raper, and it follows each of their journeys, and it follows their journey together. This one touched a lot of issues on rape culture and rape shame, and especially when it comes to men. I really enjoyed this one. It is a very, very hard book to swallow. So if you are not able to read very graphic or very hard-hitting or very sexual abuse driven books, do not pick up this book. But what I liked about it is it was sort of almost poetic in places, and I really Really enjoyed that. I wish that I actually had a copy of the physical book to read along with the audiobook. The audiobook was phenomenal, by the way, but I wish that I had a copy of the physical book to read along to sort of get a feel for the formatting of the book. But the audiobook was really good. I really enjoyed it. Yet another 5-star read. That wraps up for all the books that I've read this summer. If you've read any of these books, let me know down below and we can chat about them, because I have quite some more things to say, but when you have this many books to do in a wrap-up video, you can't really talk that long. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you have not yet, I would love for you to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.